and welcome to the Crate and Crowbar, a podcast about PC gaming. This is episode 63. It's the 7th of October. I'm Tom Francis, and with me here today are...
Marsh Davis.
And Graham Smith.
Hello. I've been away for a while. I've been away for 3 episodes at least.
Where have you been, Tom?
I've been to Fantastic Arcade in Austin, Texas.
Was it fantastic?
And EGX.
Was that EG?
It was easy. So Fantastic Arcade was pretty fantastic, and EGX was also fantastic in a different way, because I was there to show Heat Signature to the public and to present it as well in a talk type way. And that went pretty well at both, but Fantastic Arcade is in a bar, and so the tension level is not that high. You can kind of just mumble through it, and it doesn't really matter if you screwed it up. And I think that went pretty well. But it was good that that was first, because then when I had to do the same thing at EGX in front of a proper crowd on a proper stage with a proper mic and being live streamed and with massive cinema screens behind me, I was a lot less nervous than I would have been if I'd never done that before. But EGX was cool also for the other games on show, and the best one I played there was Big Pharma, which is the thing that Klifsky is publishing, the guy who does Gratuitous Space Battles and Democracy and stuff, and he's published indies before. Red Shirt was by Mithu Kandekar.
Well, I thought he was a collaborator on that as well.
Well, so yeah, he's quite a sort of hands-on publisher, I think. He gets involved with, actual design stuff. I think he said something to the effect of, he thinks maybe he should be less hands-on, because he's a control freak about his own game, so he starts to, make design calls for other people's. I don't know what it's like with Big Pharma. I didn't really... I talked to the guy who's making it, Tim, but I didn't ask specifically about that relationship. But it seems like it's already very advanced in terms of progress. It seems seems nearly done to me.
This is Pharma with a PH.
Yes, sorry.
Okay.
It would be a totally in character for, management games to be about farmers, but this one is about pharmaceuticals. And it's a type of game that I don't usually get into that much, which is sort of like tycoon games and management things where you build your own factory type thing and make it profitable, and there's a sort of there's an inherent pleasure to managing things and making them efficient and that kind of stuff, but usually it doesn't really do it for me for whatever reason. But this one really clicked for me when I was watching. There's 2 ways to play the demo version of it. One is start with a totally blank slate, and the other is to load a pre-made factory and kind of see how it works. So I loaded the pre-made one, and I was just watching how it worked. And it's a big conveyor belt with all these kind of exotic-looking machines that kind of pick things up off conveyor belts and then spin them round and shake them and blend them and then put them back on different conveyor belts. And the thing that suddenly sold it for me was I was watching. One of them was called the Shaker, and it picks things up, puts them in a big canister, and then just gives them a big shake and then puts them down again. And as it's doing it, I clicked on it, and its description says it rotates all of the chemicals' effects one place clockwise. And then I watched it. You can see the ingredient that goes into it is represented by this little 2x2 grid of effects, things causes anal leakage or cures baldness. And so some of them are negative and some of them are positive. And as it shakes it, you see that all those things rotate one place clockwise so that they're now in different positions. And then one of the later gadgets takes 2 inputs, so you have 2 different conveyor belts going into it, and it takes the left-hand effects of one chemical and the right-hand effects of the other chemical and splices them together to make a new one. So if you have something with anal leakage on the left-hand side, but a good effect on the also on the left-hand side, you use the shaker to rotate them clockwise, so now one's on the left and one's on the right. Then you put in the left-hand side of the splitter so that you'll only get the positive bit and you'll lose the negative bit. Then you combine it with another ingredient that might have a different positive effect, or it might have the same positive effect, and then you'll be boosting its efficiency. And then they go into the pill-making machine, which makes it, I think it increases its value by $10 or something, whereas if you make it a balm, then it lessens any negative effects that you've still got left in there. So all different ways of processing it have different effects. And some of them are sort of universally applicable, rotating effects or splitting them or combining them. And others are just, there'll be just an agglomeratizer, and then each individual ingredient will say, this effect, if put through an agglomerator, turns into this other one. And so they're special case ones. And so when you're looking at the ingredients you can get hold of, you have to figure out, which bits you're going to do by rotating and splitting them, and which bits you're just going to convert using a special piece of equipment that's just for that. And then end up hopefully with a chemical that does more good than harm. I don't know how far it gets into the kind of how evil you can be and still be profitable, because...
So it's just about the construction of these things. It's not really about, choosing to feed Africans placebos to drive up demand of your medicines that actually work.
As far as I played, it's just about actually making chemicals and trying to do a good job of it, which is perhaps idealistic in relating to Big Pharma. But like I say, I don't know if that's just because that's all he's showing at the moment. You're just showing the conveyor belts type stuff. But it was really, really good fun. And actually, I didn't know... I started my own factory after that to figure this out, and just got really excited about, if I take this thing and then rotate it and then split it, I can make this, I can get all the good effects of this one and all the good effects of the other one and put them together, and that was really enjoyable. I can't remember what else I was going to say about it.
Is it like a kind of theme hospital style interface?
Yes.
For it? Yeah.
So it's really nice art, very clinical, obviously, and sort of looks 3D, but isn't. It's actually sprite based. Oh yeah, that's what I was going to say. I was playing it just when Tim wasn't around, so I didn't have any guidance, and I thought you couldn't rotate the machines. Like, I tried the usual keys I would try for that, and I couldn't do it. And they're all really big, cumbersome shapes, almost like Tetris pieces, like weird L shapes and T shapes and stuff. And their inputs and outputs are in very different locations. So sometimes you'll get one where the input is kind of at the back, and so I've got to run my conveyor belt all the way around. And I thought that was like the puzzle of the game, was how do you lay out your thing to cope with all these awkward inputs and outputs. Turns out you can rotate it. I just didn't know the controls. But even that was fun, just figuring out how to place these awkward things and get them to connect to each other.
All that stuff makes it sound quite a lot like Factorio, which I played for like 4 hours. And it's all about mining materials in order to mine more materials, basically, and just creating this really efficient loop of conveyor belts and picking things up with arms to put them on different conveyor belts to fuel the things that are digging the things that are putting on the conveyor belts. But it's absurdly Moorish, just trying to work out how to efficiently connect all that stuff up. I didn't realise that Big Pharma was like that. That's really cool.
Is Factorio, what are the things that process the things? Are they just make it better, or are there like specific effects like the...
There's a whole bunch of different resources, which have different like pollution levels and different qualities in terms of how much or what type of power they create. But to start off with, you'll just be using a coal-powered digging machine to dig up coal. And then you'll have a conveyor belt which will take that to like a smelter or something like that, which will turn it into a different material. Or you have a conveyor belt which will take that and put that into other digging machines, and those other digging machines are digging up some type of metal, and then the metal is getting taken by another conveyor belt and then carried by an arm into an oven, which is cooking it into a different type of metal.
Right.
And then eventually you build it up in iterations, constantly going back and making your stuff more efficient. So once you have enough resources, you can build a different type of power plant that requires maybe hydroelectricity, and you're making use of the water that's nearby, and that's more efficient and causes less pollution and that sort of stuff. Meanwhile, you're also being attacked by aliens who are attracted by pollution, I think. And you're just a little guy on the map. You don't control it like theme park or anything. You run around and actually do stuff manually. And that's kind of your compulsion to make stuff as efficient as possible, because when one of your arms runs down, you're like, you have to run over there and put the coal in it manually, and you're like, if only I could automate this. That's what the whole game is about, is just automating it, so eventually you don't have to do anything.
I just remembered after I got my thing working in Big Pharma, and I was rotating the bad effects out and then splitting them into one thing, and I think it was a hair restorative I was making, and I'd got 2 different chemicals that had the same effect, and I was combining them to make an even stronger version of that effect, and I'd rerouted all my conveyor belts to do this, and it was going to be much better than my last chemical. And then once the first batch of that kind of got to the pill making machine and then started going into the boxes get shipped out, and it tells you how much you earned from each one, and it was saying $10, which was way less than I was making before. That was weird. And then I discovered the ingredient I was using can only be processed a certain number of times before its effects vanish. And the pill-making process was the last time I was processing it, and it was just one time too many. It couldn't withstand the process. And so I was selling pills that did literally nothing. But the pill-making machine's property is it adds $10 to the value of whatever you're making. So it goes in worthless, and then it comes out being worth $10, but does absolutely nothing. So just selling total placebos. It's like, shit, this is how it happens.
That's really cool.
Did you see anything else at Fantastic Arcade? And or EGX?
I played... actually, I played Fantastic Arcade. I played Rooftop Cop, which is not at all what it sounds like. Rooftop Cop, as in a policeman on the top of a roof.
Right.
But not recognisably that at any stage. It's 5 different games, each of which is kind of... I got the impression that they are all set in the future and that maybe they're going further and further into the future with each one. And but it's very non-verbal, doesn't really explain it, the context. And pretty much all of the games are endless, I think. You play one and you figure out what it's about, and then it just goes on for as long as you care to play it until you quit and then go and try one of the others. And it seems like the first one is actually in a city and you're walking around the streets. And I think you can rank pedestrians or something. You can give them scores to sort of say whether you like them or not. And you can also place barriers and you can just kill people. And so I did a bit of that. I didn't really know what I was doing and quit out of it. Then the next one is capture the flag for 1. And you are on the left-hand side of a snowy expanse. And you can walk to another base on the other hand side, pick up the flag and take it back to your base. And I think you score a point. I don't know if that's represented anywhere. But as you're doing it, the snow between you is just kind of collapsing. And it just keeps on collapsing forever until it becomes completely impossible to do anything. And then another one...
None of these games so far sound any good.
It's kind of it's not really like a game that you play for fun. It's sort of a mood piece, I think.
Okay.
And it seemed to be like charting the sort of demise or increasingly surrealness of this society. And so the next one was... I think this is the next one. A much more gamey one where you are actually on a rooftop this time. But you seem to be a thief rather than a cop because when you walk on glass roofs, you break through them and then you pick up loot on each floor and guards see you and they try and run to an alarm. But if you break through to the next floor before they do so, then you're safe. And what determines how quickly you break the glass is how much loot you're carrying. And if you carry too much loot, then you break glass so easily that when you fall through, you'll break the glass on the next floor as well, and then keep on falling until you splat. And the building is infinitely tall, I think. I played for a very long time once I got the hang of it, and I think I carried about 13 kilograms of loot, and that was about enough to let me break through any window pretty quickly so that the guards wouldn't catch me before I broke through without me falling through all subsequent floors. And I think each time you fall, maybe you lose a bit of weight. So you're trying to balance that. And I went for a very long time without completing it in any sense. And then there's one that's just wandering around. Actually, no, there's one that's I thought was just wandering around a big desert, but there's a secret to it that I didn't get. So I won't say what that was. And then there's another one where you were just on a raft, and I think might be the last one, or maybe the empty desert one is the last one. But they get increasingly desolate and increasingly hopeless. And the one I liked the most, I think, was you're on a makeshift raft floating upstream, and there's these. I think they might be buildings actually, and the whole place has just been flooded. So I guess they are rooftops. And as they go past, you can walk off. You're going very slowly, and you can walk off your raft and pick up debris and stuff from these rooftops and take it back to your raft and use that to build your raft to be bigger. But you can't steer it in any way, and so you're trying to sort of build it wider so you can reach more and more distant rooftops as you go past and get stuff from them. And there's 2 of you, I think, yeah. And so you control whichever one you want. One can be building and the other one can be going off and gathering stuff. And then sometimes you find other people stranded on the rooftop, so you have to try and build over to them, and then once you find them, they can join your crew. And I was trying to, I didn't manage it, but I wanted to build my thing to be wide enough that the next time we hit a rooftop, it would split the ship in half, so it'd have 2 different rafts, and then keep different people on different sides. But again, so there's no objective and there's no kind of end to it, as far as I know. You just keep going and keep building this thing. So they're all like, just mood pieces, and they all have got really nice music, and a really nice visual style. And I think, actually, maybe one of the main reasons I like it is that the name is so inappropriate. It just sounds like it's going to be this hardcore action, like, platform or something, and then it kind of hints at that sometimes, but it's just really sad, and the world is just ruined in many different ways.
It sounds kind of great, like, even though the games don't sound fun exactly. I want to play this.
Yeah, it was cool. What have you guys been playing? There's been loads of games.
I have been playing two things. I've been playing Hyper Light Drifter, which is being made by Teddy Diefenbach, who is an indie designer. I think he's at a one-man company called Heart Machine. He's working on a few different games. And Hyper Light Drifter was kickstarted last year, I think. And it's a kind of Zelda-like top-down combat game set in kind of ruined temples and caves with a kind of lots of technology throughout them, and with a really beautiful, colourful pixel art graphical style. Kind of
Crowbar
like
voice.
I find it hard because it's such a weird mishmash of different things. Like, it's the kind of camera perspective and combat style of something like Bastion, with some more kind of architectural style of Transistor, with sort of temples and the sort of plaintive mood young boy with flapping scarf of Zelda. And then the combat is as good as any Flambiri stuff.
Ooh.
Okay. In real time?
Yes.
Right.
Is there a gimmick to it? I seem to remember there being a gimmick or something.
Not really a gimmick that I can think of.
Okay.
You're
Can you
basically
do
like
sweet drifts?
You are like that's the other thing, is you also look like one of the characters out of Journey, in that you've kind of got a cloak and a scarf kind of covering your face, and you've got a little floating buddy who is sort of a key who helps you hack computers to open doors.
Oh, right, okay.
But it seems quite simple so far, because he did basically a preview weekend for people who'd backed the game and for press. So it's no longer available. It was just available for those 3 days, and then it got turned off again because he distributed it through Steam. And it's absolutely beautiful, first of all. But the reason that I ended up continually going back to it, even after I completed it to try and find new secrets, is just the combat feels so good. And I like it more than I like the combat in Nuclear Throne.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got the same thing of, if you fire your gun, nice screen shake, and that sort of stuff, all that stuff that makes each individual interaction feel really good. But then it's a lot about melee combat, and there's a really kind of simple system that has a lot of nuance in it. So even just playing it for 2-3 hours, I felt like I was getting continually better at doing it. Partly, there's a whole bunch of different moves you can do. So there's dash, which is the main thing, which is the closest thing it's got to a gimmick, I guess, which is you can burst forward with a great deal of speed, like 10 feet in front of you. And then if you can do that, and that's really useful for getting between different platforms. You don't jump, you kind of dash across gaps and that sort of stuff, and it's good for dodging attacks and getting to enemies. But then the nuance there is that you can perfect that to the point where if you are timing your dashes just right, you can do it infinitely, and you just pick up speed as you do it. And eventually you get to a wall or whatever, and that will break your run. But it's just super satisfying to be able to dash these huge distances and be able to perfect that and do that really well. Your basic weapon is a sword, which you've always got. You get that, you have that by default. And there's just a general, like, hacking thing you can do. But then there's also a kind of cleave movement you can do, and a sort of lengthways swish. I don't know what the word would be, what you call that in proper sword talk. If only Chris was here. And then there's also kind of combos. So you can, if you string together a bunch of hits, then you get bonuses in terms of building up towards a one-hit attack that will take out almost any enemy. Then you've got weapons on top of that. You can only carry one weapon at a time. You start off with a pistol, and then you get like a shotgun that shoots in shoots a spread, but after the spread reaches a certain distance, it turns back inwards. And it kind of zigzags like that, to like coming together to a point and then zigging back out, and kind of rebounds off the environment. And similarly, your guns can, if you string together a number of good shots, and you can use like the right trigger to aim specifically, or you can just use your whatever direction your character's facing in. So there's kind of finesse to that. But you can also similarly build that up with a series of good shots to the point where you get like a one-shot kill. And then it's going through these environments and encountering different enemies with different attack patterns, and getting better at dealing with their attack patterns, and better at maximizing your efficiency in putting together your moves, getting these bonuses combined with the dash. And it's just super, super fucking satisfying. Every individual action that you can do feels great, and then has that bit of nuance to it. And then the environment's similar, because so I completed the preview build in about 50 minutes, I think it took me to go through. And basically you have to collect, there are these really strange pieces of technology around the place. A recurring motif is things in vials full of pink ooze. And the major thing seems to be hearts. And you get hearts of different sizes. And at various points where you find, like, at the end of a particular part of the dungeon, you'll find this huge pink vial machine with like a pulsing or part organic, part technology thing inside it. And there'll be a device there that you get like I don't know what it is. It's a square. It's like a computer chip or something like that you get from that machine, and that marks that you've completed that part. And then at the end of it, the 4 that you collect give you access to the next area. But at this point, it just takes you back outside to the start of the cave. But then there are lots of secret areas. In fact, there's 20 more of those squares that you can then find littered about using your dash move to find hidden rooms or hidden platforms, or areas where the camera, which is, you don't control the camera, it pans in very specific ways, and you'll notice as it pans from one area to another, just like the little corner of a platform off screen, that when the camera comes to a rest at either point, you can't see that platform. You can just see it in the transition, and you find that, and that's another square, and that gets you various other rewards into hidden areas of the game. And so there's a great deal of care, I feel, has gone into every part of this, that I don't normally care about secrets, but just the fact that the combat felt so nice, and it felt good to be getting better at it, not in any kind of leveling up sense, or even finding new weapons beyond, I think there's 3 in the preview build. But it just felt so good that I kept going back and kept finding those secret areas, and yeah.
Is this still, or will it be still available when we come out with this? Because it was a limited...
I don't think it's available now, even when we're recording it.
So definitely not.
Yeah, and it was only available to people who backed the Kickstarter. So I think it went
up. I thought they actually let you buy it, because it was originally talking about making it a Kickstarter exclusive, but then...
Yeah, that's true, actually. Yeah, you could buy in, I think it was $12 to pre-order.
Yeah. You could have.
Yeah, you could have bought in for $12 on the Friday, and you would have got the Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to play it. So yeah, I think it's gone now.
It's an interesting way of doing things, because I guess it was a Kickstarter perk that he presumably promised.
I don't think he did, actually.
Really?
I think it was the 1 year anniversary of the Kickstarter.
All right.
And so he just did it for, I mean, he's getting lots of feedback from it.
But it's something I quite fancy doing heat signature, which is, because it's valuable to have a big test and get lots of feedback, but you don't really want people to be playing your game from now until release if it's going to take a long time, because then they'll just be sick of it by the time it comes out. And that would be bad. And you can't, like... It feels like you should trust people to not make themselves sick of a game. Like
you can't trust people,
but no, I don't think you can.
Not about that, or indeed.
You can't trust me not to do that. I'll do it to myself for sure.
Yeah.
Like I actually think FTL. I mean, thankfully it was a huge success regardless, and didn't need me yelling about it at launch. But I didn't yell about it at launch because I didn't play it at launch, because I played it so much at preview, because I had access to a build that I could play forever. And loved it and talked about it loads then, gave it loads of preview coverage and stuff. That by the time it came out, I just kind of wasn't like desperate to get back into it. And so if it had been like a borderline success, the time at which they sort of would most benefit from people yelling about it. Those of us who've been playing it for ages probably didn't yell about it as loudly as we should have.
There's so many games in early access now, and we've been talking about this, I don't know if on the podcast or just privately, but game releases don't really matter anymore. Games get released and you just kind of shrug your shoulders and barely even notice because they've been out for a year before that.
Yeah, the early access stuff in particular. Like Planetary Annihilation, discovering that was out, was like, what? That's out? Like, at the same, like, simultaneously it was, feels like it's been in early access for years, and yet it still feels way sooner for it to be actually released. And I played it actually, and, didn't get along with it, and it did feel very shaky and graphically, unfinished, and, I thought, like, I played a few games on quite a small scale and thought, well, you know, I can't get into the big scale stuff because it's just, I just don't understand the interface well enough. It's going to be a long time to learn the game well enough to even get to that. And to do so, I'd have to be playing against such a trivially easy AI in order to not get killed before that point. So I'll go online and look up like a really cool epic match, and found one on YouTube in which, like, it does take place over multiple planets, and someone does put thrusters on a planet and crash a planet into another planet, or I think a moon into another planet, but they're virtually the same size. And then at the moment, it takes a long, long time. It's very, very slow, and it's kind of the climax of this whole game. And at the point at which the planet finally kind of touches the other planet, it sort of clips into it. And at first it seems like maybe it's doing a kind of like spectacular crumpling thing where the whole thing's been atomized, so it looks almost fluid at first. But then you realise, no, the model's just clipping through it, and then it just vanishes, and then both vanish completely, and then the other one just comes back, but untextured for a while, and then it spawns in with like a little bit of a crater in it, but the other one's just gone. And then one by one, like the buildings kind of blink out on the surface, but just the icons disappear, and there's no effect for it.
Was that a bug, or are they just not?
I'm sure that's not working as intended, but that's in itself is a lack of polish.
The planet smashing does normally work as intended, but I guess that's just a bug. I don't know how common it is, but it is pretty core to the appeal of that game. It's like the entire reason for that game existing, I think, was just for that moment.
I also, I mean, I won't talk about it too much, but the main reason I didn't get on with it that well was the planet thing just makes it really hard to get an overview of what the hell's going on. And the planets themselves just seem to be like 90% land, so they're just a big field essentially, but you just can't see all of it at once. So it just wasn't very interesting as a battlefield.
I think it's telling that their next game, Human Resources, which is on Kickstarter now, it takes place on different platforms floating in space, but they are just flat platforms. Yeah. They're not globes, because globes are really fucking hard. They're still doing lots of different things, like being able to slice apart that terrain and that sort of stuff. But I do wonder if they just decided that globes were fucking stupid.
They make really nice trailers, though. So
yeah,
they're great. Is it previs where you sort of make a graphical mock-up of what you can do?
Target footage,
which is very good for Kickstarter because I think a lot of people just watch them and think, "Oh, the game looks great already."
Yeah,
I don't think a lot of people actually realise that it's not real.
When's Hyperlight Drifter out then? Finally.
Don't know. I think it will be sometime next year, hopefully.
Oh, really? That long?
Year. Yeah, okay. I think so.
So what you played? That was like a vertical slice, as they've been putting all the kind of terminology out today. Was it like just a chunk of a larger game?
Yeah,
right. Okay.
I think he's been working on
demo. I think.
Yeah, it was a demo. It was a one level demo.
But the systems within it seemed fairly finished.
I guess. Oh yeah, it was super polished, and that was like, this is why it's better than early access, because I played Planetary Annihilation like 6 months after it went into early access, 6 months before it was actually released, and it wasn't very good, and I wasn't sure whether I was playing it too soon, and then I didn't really care when it was first available, and I didn't care when it went to 1.0. Whereas Hyper Light Drifter being limited to a weekend made it exciting and urgent, because I needed to play it on Sunday, otherwise I wasn't going to get to play it for ages.
So and then it was manipulate
and it was brilliant, and so now it's gone, and I'm just excited to play it again. So when it actually does release, I'll be there on day one now.
Yeah. The downside, I guess, will be that there's an extra incentive to pirate it. Like, if you can't get it legitimately now, so no matter how big a fan of this you are, if you want to play it now, gotta pirate it. That's like,
I suppose
that's the risk you run.
But then if it's just people pirating your hour-long demo, that's kind of, pirate that all you want. That's marketing.
Yeah, that is a thought that has also crossed my mind.
What's the other game that you've been playing this week, Graham, that shouldn't have been launched at the same time as Shadows of Mordor?
I've been playing Styx, which is called Master of Shadows, I think.
Oh my
Styx,
God.
Master of Shadows. But I just keep calling it Mordor of Shadows. Which is made by Cyanide. Can't remember if I think we didn't talk about it on the podcast. We have too many conversations. I can't keep track of which one we
talk
record.
outside the podcast. You should just maintain steely silence in our friendships.
Just as we arrive, just nod.
Yeah.
Pour the booze. Sit down.
Cyanide make interesting but duff games.
Yes.
And Styx is their least interesting and most good game.
Oh, wow. Is it good enough to be actually worth playing then?
Well, the thing is that they're selling it for, I think, $25.
Huh.
And so it's not a full price game, and it's digital download only, so they're not releasing it at retail, I don't think. I think you just buy it through your console stores and Steam and so forth. So it's pitched at a level which is appropriate for what it is. What it is actually good. It's a good stealth game. It's basically looked at Dishonored and looked at Thief a little bit and gone, oh, those are a bunch of easily replicable systems. Let's just create 6 missions of really big worlds. And have you as a little goblin chap, Cockney goblin,
Excellent.
sneak your way.
As all goblins are.
Yeah.
Well, we might come to that later. Yeah, sorry.
Sneak your way through, climbing about scenery, and it all takes place. It's actually much better than I was expecting. Like I knew it was going to be a bit kind of cheap, but there's stuff in the art direction and the world design which is actually really cool. So first of all, it seems to take place in a city built on a giant tower in the sky. Possibly built around a giant tree, I'm not sure. But essentially the effect is that it's a bit like being on Columbia from Bioshock Infinite.
Okay.
You look down and it just fades off into clouds.
Oh, wow.
And it's all this really huge medieval architecture with ridiculous amounts of scale. So you'll be on the ground and you'll look up and the top of the buildings will be 300 feet high from where you are. And the kind of medieval architecture of it is sort of reminiscent of Dishonored a little bit and Thief a little bit, but mostly it reminds me of, do you remember The Crossing?
Yes,
which was the arcane concept game that never got made with
Victor Antonov.
Victor Antonov, who did Half-Life and eventually did Dishonored. It was his vision of Paris in the future, I think, which was all these super, super, super fucking tall kind of medieval castle type structures. And it's like that, but in the sky. So a bit like Infinite. And then you're this little goblin chap who's quite short and you're really vulnerable. It's a proper stealth game. It's not a stealth killing game like Batman Arkham Asylum is or Assassin's Creed is or even
Shadow
like Dishonored
of Mordor,
is. Yeah, or I haven't played Shadow of Mordor, but as it appears to be, and I know you guys are going to cover that later, you have to sneak past everyone, and if you get spotted, then they're going to come fuck you up pretty quickly. And there's a whole bunch of systems in place to enforce that. So if you get spotted and a guy runs over to fight you, if he gets close enough to you, you get locked into that combat, so you can't escape from it.
Oh, right.
Your camera third person gets swung around and locked to the person you're fighting.
Wow.
And then you basically can't hit them. What you have to do is block their attacks till they're kind of stunned, and then you can do a kill move, and that will kill them. But of most of the enemies, you've got to block 3 of their attacks, and that's not easy to time your parries in order to do that. And as soon as you get spotted by one enemy, pretty much, because these are quite big worlds with, 40 guards in a single area. Each mission split up into 4 parts. There'll be like 160, 180 people over the whole 4 parts, so the guards are distributed, which means that there's always someone within hearing range. And it's all about how much noise you're making at any point. And if you get spotted by one guard, he's got different alert levels of, oh, I think I've seen something. Oh, it must have been rats. Versus, oh, I think I've seen something. I'm going to go walk over there and check it out. At which point you've got to sneak away or leave the area, because otherwise he's going to walk around the corner and actually find you. And the third level is, fuck, I see a goblin guy. Which is what they yell, pretty much.
Styx, Master of Shadows.
Yeah. At which point 4 other people become alert, and as well as having swords and running towards you, they also have like throwing darts. Like more than half the enemies have those things. So even if you can remain out of combat range and not get locked into any single melee fight, you're going to get hit by these darts, and it's like 3 hits by them to get killed, or 3 or less hits to get hit by someone's sword. And even if you block 3 sword attacks and then do a kill animation on a guy, they don't stand around in queue like in Assassin's Creed. While you're doing the kill animation on this guy, some other guy's behind you just stabbing you with a sword. So,
stop doing the kill animation!
So basically, don't get caught. Is what this game is about, which I quite like as a stealth game.
That's actually a change nowadays, isn't it?
Yeah.
Nearly every stealth franchise has decided to add like a different mode of interaction, which is like their guns blazing mode.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's like disappointing in some ways.
And there are systems that make you more powerful as you go along. So the structure of it is pretty reminiscent of every other game of this type, in that there are 6 missions interspersed with cutscenes, or sometimes cutscenes, sometimes like comic style animatics thing, owing to its low budget, I guess. But you go back to your hideout, and there's some sort of thief fella there, and he has information.
Really got into the lore of this game.
Yeah, I don't really care. It's a spin-off of Orcs and Men, which is another cyanide RPG, which wasn't very good, and which was more of a kind of straight attempt at an RPG. But back at your hideout in this castle, in the Sky Land, this guy knows more about the city than you do, so you're trying to do something, it's not clear what. Or you're trying to steal the heart of the tree. The tree's full of amber. There are elves involved. You work for the elves, maybe, and there's humans, and they're getting all high on the amber and shit. It's like whale oil, you know. But he tells you what to do, and then he'll have like a side quest for you, or steal this thing for me, and I'll give you more XP points, which you can then use to level up various skills. Some of the skills you get are useful for killing people. So throwing knives, ability to jump on people and do aerial attacks and that sort of stuff. But it's all kind of still crappy as compared to their Batman variants or Dishonored variants and that kind of thing. So,
but you can create clones of yourself, right?
That's the kind of other gimmick of the game. So rather than being able to possess things like rats in Dishonored, you can create a clone which can crawl through smaller spaces than you. This tends to be specific grates, basically doors that you can't pass but your clone can, so you send him through by creating him using Amber, which is the kind of magic source, switching your control to him, and then just guiding him around like you do Styx. Crawl through, pull a lever, opens the door, now Styx can get through. And then you can level up your clone so he can do things like, there are kind of Hitman Absolution style wardrobes and crates and stuff around the place that you can hide in. Except the guards are much smarter than Hitman Absolution's guards, so if they see you get in there or have any inkling, they'll just look inside and pull you out by your throat. But you can say, for example, upgrade your clone using the skill system so that you can hide him in one of those boxes, and then when a guard comes past, your clone will automatically leap out, pull the guard inside and kill him. Stuff like that. Or getting your clone so he can climb on a guard's back and either distract him so you can kill him or so you can sneak by, and that sort of stuff. But most of the skill system is about giving you new ways to sneak around. Because most of the time you're just doing that by hanging off ledges and leaping between handholds on the wall and that sort of stuff. So it's really more about navigating those physical spaces, and then the skill system reflects that. So allowing you to fall from greater distances or move more quietly or roll further distances and that kind of thing. And it's just good. It doesn't have any new ideas, but all the ideas it does have are good ones, like just taken from other games and quite well implemented. The world design's quite nice, quite cheap. The one thing that the cheapness mostly is just stuff like the cutscenes are a bit shit, and voice acting's not great. It's not awful, but it's not great. And there are kind of animations that you know, you wouldn't see in a Ubisoft game made by 800 people. They're really taking much greater care. Points where you're standing on a surface which is slightly too thin for the character model, and it doesn't have like a physicsy animation system, so you plant your feet correctly, you just kind of float partly in there. The place where it kind of hurts the game is in little fiddly bits to do with the controls. So, for example, if you're on... This is the problem that every fucking 3D platformer had for years, but if you're on a ledge and you want to just drop down to the ledge and hang on to it, onto the ledge of the actual surface you're standing on, getting your character to do that is fucking infuriating because half the time you'll drop, turn, grab the ledge and instantly pull yourself back up and just back where you started. Half the time you'll just drop and not grab on at all and fall into the void. And so it creates this paranoia of you want to just walk off the ledge, but you want to then push back to grab the ledge so you don't fall into the void, but then that act of pushing back causes you to then leap immediately back up, and I can't get that fiddly thing right. There needs to just be a button for drop down and hang on. And there's not. And that comes up quite a lot in a game about ledges and navigating places. Yeah. But it's not really impaired the fun I've been having with it, and I've played it for about 10 hours so far. I reckon it's probably about 15 hours long.
You should play Shadows of Mordor, because it actually does that stuff really well. The climbing on things.
I did actually have a very frustrating bit with it where I was trying to drop off the ledge and I kept on turning around and dropping off the wrong side, and then I jump up and then trying to get... it was fucking nightmarish.
You can sometimes drop off the wrong side. Should we talk about that now?
Yeah, we talked about it last week actually, but our special guest last week, John Walker, has only played a little bit of it and none of us else has played it. But all of us now, apart from Graham, have played.
Two of the three of us.
We've been playing the budget equivalent, which I think is what Styx probably is. And it's not a bad game, but probably if you've got $50, you should buy Shadow of Mordor, from what people are saying.
So the your point about Styx being a proper stealth game and like being caught is a big penalty couldn't be less true of Shadows of Mordor. Like, you're amazing at combat in that. Like, I would say you're even more powerful than you are in Batman. Like, it has the same, it's actually, I mean, probably directly inspired by Batman's combat, because it's very similar in a way I very much like. Because it's like Batman Arkham Asylum solved combat in like a third-person brawler type thing. Like, you don't need anything better than that. It's really, really fucking good. And it's really good in Shadows of Mordor. Shadow? Is it Shadow? I think it's just Shadow singular, isn't it?
There's only one Shadow.
You are the Shadow of Mordor. Or a ranger guy who can turn into an elf ghost.
Be the shadow.
Be the shadow you want to not see in the world. So you, it's like one button to attack and another button to counter. And the actual one of the only differences really is I'm not totally sure I can exactly define the situation that's different, but there's a certain combination of things that I often press in the Batman games that means I fail the combo. Like, it's something to do with, like, I go to counter, but then I change my mind and decide to attack instead. And in Batman, I think it commits you to the first thing you do. And in Shadows of Mordor, it's like, yeah, sure, you can change your mind.
Yeah, you can combo break at any moment and switch between stuff.
And it's really generous with your combo as well. Like, almost anything counts. Like, jumping over someone, stunning them, even, like, stopping to do a stealth kill. And you can pause for, like, 5 seconds without doing anything, and your combo still keeps going. And then your combo, like in Batman, lets you do execution moves. So once it starts flashing red, it means you've got an execution charge and you can just outright kill anybody. So you probably talked about this last time, but the game's mainly about captains. So it's open world of Mordor, and there's orcs everywhere, which are like, I think they're exactly like orcs, aren't they? Is there any real difference?
Yeah,
since they're the standard enemy in this game, they're like, they might as well be orcs, because they're the things that you can kill in one hit.
Well, you fight both.
Do you?
Yeah, the orcs are the kind of ones that look like goblins. The lesser orcs, the kind of stringy ones, and the orcs are the kind of butch ones.
The ghouls and the orcs. Also, if you just say it in a weird accent, it sounds like orcs anyway. So they're just like scattered all over the place in like little camps and stuff and just roaming around, and they are not at all threatening or scary. But there are captains who have like special strengths and weaknesses, and their strengths will be things like immune to stealth finishes or immune to ranged attacks. And equally, they could be vulnerable to stealth finishes, which means you can just do a normal stealth attack on them and you will instantly kill that person. Whereas normally, if you were going to fight them in outright combat, they are a boss fight and they have a big health bar. And they can have special abilities like you can't jump over them, or you can't counter their attacks, or as I think you discovered recently, some are just immune to combat.
Yeah, interesting fight with one of the war chiefs, and the kind of higher up the ranks you get, the more things that they are immune to. And I thought I was being really clever because I'd lured this guy out away from his cohort, so I'd fight him alone. And then I realised that I don't know if because maybe I fought him before. When you get beaten by these guys, they level up. Basically, they get ranked up, and they also have new immunities appear in their stats. So I don't know if that happened or I just didn't read the stats carefully enough, which is very possible. But it turned out I basically had nothing on this guy. I couldn't jump over him, which is kind of the way that you attack somebody in their back, which is, he had a shield. He was immune from the front. I couldn't stun him, which you can do with kind of magic attack. So I couldn't hit him. I couldn't hit him at all. And I thought I was going to be completely boned. The only thing he was susceptible to are these kind of combo finisher moves that you can do. But I couldn't build a combo because your combo and your finishing moves are reliant on you being able to hit things multiple times in order to kind of build up this meter. But luckily, this other captain just kind of saw him in the far distance, like in that scene in Monty Python and the Holy Grail, the guy running up the hill. This guy kind of running across the wasteland, just on some kind of bizarre vendetta against me, and turns up and says, "I'm going to get you!" And I'm like, "Yes, brilliant!" And I was able to kind of farm him for hits, which then I could turn into a combo.
Right there, don't move.
Yeah, and then use my combo finishers on the big dude. But then this guy died. He died too quickly. And I like the war chief had a sliver of health left. I didn't have any way of hitting him. But thankfully he decided to flee at that very moment, thus exposing his lovely fleshy back to me and my sword. It felt fucking great to kill that guy. But often the game feels really fucking annoying. It's like it's given me both ends of my rage happiness spectrum.
Sorry, go on.
My favourite moment, sort of like, I guess, like story. So the game has a series of pre-written scripted quests, which are just like Assassin's Creed stuff, and it's pretty uninteresting. But you can ignore them pretty much, and just by going through the world and just trying to assassinate individual captains, you can choose which one you want to go after. You can interrogate orcs to find out where they are and who they are and what their weaknesses are and what their strengths are, and then use those to assassinate them. And just by doing that,
fucking great. Like it really feels like you're interacting with like an actual organisation, and you are dismantling it.
Yeah. When you kill one, it leaves a spot open for someone else to be promoted into their place. They will have rivalries and like duels between each other and hold hunts and feasts and stuff. And all of those things are like missions that you can choose to go in and fuck them up and to stop them. But then anytime you die, if you were killed by a regular enemy, they get turned into a captain. So whichever specific orc killed you, he'll put on a helmet and then gain some special strengths and join the ranks as like their newest captain, which is awesome because then you got like you actually remember it was that guy with that fucking stupid face.
Yeah, you fucking remember. You got really angry about this.
And also when you die, all of those missions that you could have interrupted, all those take place successfully. So whatever duels people were having get resolved, whatever feasts they were holding successfully complete, and all of those people get promoted by that, and then they get more power, they get more strengths, and they go up in the ranks. So there is this kind of like ongoing hierarchy. And sometimes when you die, it's like the guy killing you getting promoted is like, yeah, fair enough, I did die. You did kill me. That is something you should be promoted for. Well done. But then that causes a massive, like, Sauron's army-wide reshuffle, which can go on for like 10 minutes, and it should start with like a board meeting. Like, okay, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a lot to get through today. The whole organisation is going to be completely changed. Almost everybody here is changing ranks at least once. Some of you are dead now. And it goes through every single promotion.
That's really annoying when you feel like you've been killed unfairly, and that promotion chain goes on for like 5 minutes, it feels. And I'm just kind of slamming my fist against the keyboard trying to trying to quit the desktop because I'm so angry and it won't let me. It's like, fuck you! I don't want to know that you got a promotion for killing me, you tit. It wasn't even you, it was your fucking dog. That's the dogs are, like, I mean, that combat encounter with the war chief I described is when all the kind of dynamic elements, whatever, all the kind of stats and stuff are coming together in a fun way. But often, it seems like that stuff shtups you as well, and there are kind of roaming beasts around the land called caragors, and they're just these giant dogs, or caragors, as all the orcs call them for some reason, in a really kind of hammy, Brian Blessedy way. But they'll just rock up and interrupt a fight, and they'll eat everybody. And the problem is that loads of the time this happens. Like, you don't want to kill somebody, you want to interrogate them, and they'll just get munched, and be like, oh, well, I've got to go somewhere else now. And time again this happens. And even when the caragors don't kill you, which is also annoying, because they'll just pop out of nowhere and munch you, and you'll be like, oh, wow. And all of the other orcs around there get promotions.
For watching that happen.
Yeah. And
I had a great moment earlier where I knew who I wanted to kill, and I wanted to find out their weaknesses, so I was creeping up on a guy with a green mark above his head, which means they're called worms, I think, and they're people who just tell you everything if you interrogate them. So you can find out a boss's weaknesses from them. I was creeping up on him, and there's only one other person near him, and I needed to get rid of that person to interrogate him. So, but they turned out to be a captain, and it wasn't the captain I was hunting, it was just some other captain I'd never heard of. And I jumped down and fought him, and we had like a little boss fight type thing. I didn't know anything about him, so I just, like, because some people are immune to certain things, some people are vulnerable to certain things, if you don't know, you just try everything. So the first thing you try is just fire an arrow at their head, because if they're vulnerable to ranged attacks, that'll just instantly kill them. And if that doesn't work, hide again, try and do a stealth attack, see if that works, and that doesn't work, then try them with combat.
Apparently a lot of the vulnerabilities don't exist until you know about them.
Oh, really?
I think, yeah. It might be fun.
Anyway, I was attacking this guy and killed it. Well, as we were fighting, it suddenly cut to the guy who I was trying to get intel about, just being mauled by a caragor. Just out of nowhere, just got completely destroyed by one.
Yeah, it does work both ways, actually.
I guess that, like, he's dead now.
It's quite nice when you see their little health bar way across the map just deplenish. You're like, somebody got you. It wasn't me. But
so the story I was going to tell was quite early on. I was hunting this one particular. The game leads you into targeting certain people and saying, "Go after this captain, kill him," and then trains you in the basic mechanics. And I could have just kept doing that and kept taking the main missions, but at some point I was like, okay, I know enough about how the game works now. I'm just going to pick someone in Sauron's army with no particular motivation to say, you are my target, I'm going to kill you. And it just tells you their rough region, so you go to like their district of Mordor, and then you turn on like your Wraith vision and try and hunt them down. And I found him, and I was sneaking up on him, and I was hiding in a bush, and you are essentially invisible in a bush, to at least normal enemies. And then while I'm hiding there, this guy comes out of nowhere with a crossbow, just walking directly towards me. I'm like, what the fuck? And I think it must just be coincidence, he just must be heading this way. But no, he attacks me, and just as I'm about to sneak up on the other guy. And so I have to attack him, and that alerts the guy I was trying to sneak up on. So now I've got two captains facing me at once. And I'm fighting them off, and like 20 orcs all show up, because it was a big stronghold, and that was why I was trying not to set off the alarm. And fighting them all, I'm kind of almost got that the crossbow guy down, almost killed him. And that's when he decides to flee. I'm like, okay, no problem, I'm going to run after him. And as I'm running after him, we run into a third captain, who I've also never heard of before, who's a spearman, and he tries to attack me, and I like dive over him, and I'm just not really focusing on him, because I'm trying to sprint after this other guy before he gets away, because I want to make sure I finish him off. And so I run away from him, and then as I run away, the guy throws his spear and catches me exactly in the back, and I'm on like minimum health because I've just taken a load of damage from that big fight, and kills me. And so he gets promoted, and the other guy gets away, and my original target's fine. Don't get injured at all. They probably all got promoted, actually. I think I skipped the rigmarole of that.
Can you skip
And so then I'm like, yeah, I usually watch the first guy get promoted, then press B to skip the rest.
Oh man, so slamming your keyboard constantly doesn't do that. Okay.
But that all came from me deciding to kill this one guy. That was just purely personal vendetta. And because weirdly, because I had no reason to go after him, that made it all the more important. Like, that guy has to die, and now so do these other two fuckers who just completely screwed me over.
It can be a bit wearing when multiple captains join a fight, because each one is introduced by a cutscene, sort of, where they shout at you, Grave Walker, I will make your death a quick one, and things like that. And,
does the name appear on screen with like a still?
Yeah, it does, yeah, there's a kind of slam zoom on them. But like when you have three of them in a row, it's like, all right, I don't care who you are.
The other thing is they try and make all of them really like have a personal connection to you for some reason, and most of them I've never heard of, and they're like, it's time for us to face. Like, who are you? I've never heard of you. So anyway, after that, I died, and obviously I got promoted, and then I respawned, and then I'm like, okay, I'm still going to kill the guy I said I was going to kill, but first I'm going to kill these other two guys who screwed me over. So then I went around looking for those worms to interrogate. And each one would, kill their friends, then grab them, and like you dive into their mind, and then you hunt down the person you're looking for. You select them to reveal all of their weaknesses, and then select them as your target, and then that gives you the area they're in. Then you go to that like cross Mordor to find the place where they live. And then when I got there for the crossbow guy, I think he was holding a feast, and so he's at the head of a table, and all his orcs are there cheering him on. And the intel I got told me he was vulnerable to ranged attacks, so just from the shadows, just did a fully charged bow shot to the head, just killed him immediately in one shot in front of everybody. And then the other guy was doing a hunt, and hunts are a little bit tricky, but in that they are like fighting Caragors, which are really dangerous to you and to everybody, but usually if they're actually engaging, if they're intentionally taking on a hunt, they are in some way good against Caragors. They're probably not just going to get mauled by the guy without you doing anything. So you can't really... He was vulnerable to stealth finishes, but it's hard to sneak up on someone when they're fighting a Caragor because they're spinning around all the time and everyone's all over the place. So I was about to sneak up on him, and then at that point he killed the Caragor, and then it cuts to like a cutscene saying, "Hunt successful, this guy gets promoted, he gets loads more power and stuff." But when it comes out the cutscene, I was like, oh, for fuck's sake, that's such bullshit. But then it comes out the cutscene, and he's still like there, and he's still vulnerable to stealth finishes, so just press attack and slit his throat.
Enjoy your promotion, asshole!
And then I finally hunted down the guy I was after in the first place, got him into combat, fought him, got him down to quite low health, he tried to run away, and in the meantime, from killing those other two guys, I'd unlocked, I'd earned a new ability point, and I'd spent it on an ability that lets you, if you shoot someone in the leg, it pins them to the spot. So as he's running away, I go into slow motion, and you go into kind of ghost bow mode, and fire one arrow. First one, actually, I shot him in like the thigh, and that doesn't really count, so I shot him just without pinning him down. So then I aimed again and shot him like exactly in the ankle, and pins him to the ground. He's like touched his leg and can't get away. And then run up and do a finisher on him, and it was awesome. The only thing, so that was like brilliant. I was totally sold on the game at that point, and the whole systems just seemed to be working perfectly. I got screwed over. I had a personal relationship with these people. I made good on it. I got closure, and then they all came back. Every single one of them just got resurrected because it's starting to like Sauron is the great resurrector, and he can bring them all back. And then they want you to have like an ongoing personal relationship with them, so they come back with scars and stuff. But I literally killed them. I outright completely killed them. They were dead, and it said they were dead. And if they weren't dead, like if they knew that was possible, then my character would clearly just dismember them into every like tiny little shreds or whatever it takes. Just cut them up into small enough bits that they can never be reconstituted in any sense.
I don't think any of the people I fought have come back.
I've had it where I've killed someone, walked 10 paces, and he's there again. Just immediately.
I don't know that that's not a bug.
Well, that's what I thought at first, but then everyone says, I mean, they do come back. Like, that is a sort of feature. But then I said on Twitter, because I looked up on the wiki, like, why does that happen? And it says, they can come back unless you cut their head off. And whether you cut their head off is just dependent on which finishing animation your guy happens to do, and there's no way to, like, guarantee it. And then I bitched about this on Twitter, and then some people said, if you do a combat finisher, it's more likely to happen. And later on you can unlock ability that makes it happen. But then they also said, actually, even if you cut their head off, they can still come back, and they just have a bag over their heads. Like, what the fuck is this game?
Well, yeah, sounds pretty magic.
Have you done any of the stuff of, like, turning orcs to your side?
No,
I think that's quite a late... it's in the ability tree, but it's locked off by the plot. And I think it may be unlocked by a certain mission where you have to do that.
I think maybe there's a second map or something. Maybe it gets unlocked to that, because John's played it for like 50 hours now. He was saying that he's just completely obsessed with that, because what it allows you to do is covertly take over the political structure of the orcs, because you can take over a guy who's a captain and then send him off to challenge his superior at another fort. And then if he kills that guy, he'll get his job, basically. They get promoted through the ranks.
Right.
And so, like, John's got multiple people within this organisation now that are under his control, and, like, a war chief will die, and John will handpick the successor by going out into the world and doing stuff in order to make that happen.
There is... I think they've handled this a bit badly because there is something like that in the first part of the game, but it's scripted. So there's just one guy you're not allowed to kill, and he is you just have like a deal with him. You don't mind controlling him or anything. He promises to help you, and you're always thinking like, this is a stupid thing for me to do. I don't want to trust an orc.
I think.
Can you? I haven't tried yet, but there was a bunch of plot missions relating to him that gets him into that situation.
This sounds amazing. Why aren't all games like this? Why do I have to play this scripted bullshit stuff when I could just have a dynamic world full of Far Cry? Is it are the forts and strongholds like Far Cry?
Yeah, there are strongholds actually. Yeah.
They're not quite as good in terms of like there are alarms and people rush to them, but it's not as good a stealth game in terms of that logic of where you can really neatly take it down in a stealthy way. It's a game that puts you into a lot of situations where it seems like stealth would be impossible. Like there's just 17 people in a yard all looking at each other, and so in Far Cry 3 that would be impossible to do completely stealthily. But it actually gives you some really like powerful and quite precise tools to do stealth because you can attract people rather. So when you're in stealth mode, pretty much anywhere near them, you can single out one guy and like sort of whisper at him through the void, and only he will come over to investigate. So you can lure people away one by one like that. Or you can also use your bow in a weird way to
can teleport with your bow.
You can teleport, but also you
ghost
can
bow.
Yes.
You can also just it's less precise, but you can point to a spot on the ground and use its distract ability, which creates a distraction there. You can't tell it who to distract. It will be anyone in a certain range, but it means you can attract them to a place where you're not going. And I've actually done some really cool stuff with that, where I'm just like, I'll attract someone not to get them there, but to get them out of where they currently are, so I can go in and like poison a grog barrel and then leave again before they turn around. But yeah, I think the structure of that mini boss type thing is really remarkable for just like as you're playing it, just like this is sort of new and interesting in a way that games just sort of aren't. Like loads of games have a new mechanic, like a really cool new ability that you've never seen before. Loads of games have like, well not loads, but some have really interesting stories and really cool plot moments. But it's so rare to have a game that just has a new structure. Just the whole way it works is just something.
Let's simulate the hierarchy of an actual armed force. And that's a really good idea for a game of that kind, where you're assassinating individuals within an army. You'd expect that to have an effect, like in a way that Assassin's Creed never sells, really.
I want a version of this now, which is set during like feudal Japan, warring shogunate, warring to be the one to protect the emperor. You've got different clans all over the country, and you can be like Kane from Kung Fu.
Do you have a ghost bow?
Walk around like what was the BioWare game? Jade Empire. Yeah, but set it in that and walk around and do martial arts on people.
Yeah,
that was China, I believe.
China would be a preferable setting to Mordor, which is kind of just a muddy shithole, really. It's a shame.
It is.
There's some really nicely designed art assets in there that you can see with good concept art. but the way that it's been compiled together and the lighting, it just makes everything's just in kind of slightly dingy, unlit, muddy brown, like a smoggy. It makes it really difficult for you to discern where you are by looking, and none of the areas feel distinct, really.
I'm often like halfway through a fort when I realise, I've been here like 3 times. I just didn't really recognise it because it all kind of looks the same.
Yeah. Orcs are cool though. They've got really good faces, and it's a shame.
Yeah.
It's a shame your character is kind of bland looking. Really.
Yep. Both these things are true. The orcs individually, because they have to be unique for you to recognise them. They've done a really good job of that, and like just their actual facial structures
Goiters
and their expressions and things are
terrible
quite unique.
Skin conditions.
But then they also have like special helmets and weird facial apparatus and stuff that marks them out even more.
I think it's about as unlikely that this game was going to be good as it was that Styx was going to be good. Developed by Monolith, who everyone would have thought are past the prime, and it's a Lord of the Rings game.
Yeah, it's interesting actually. I don't know. It doesn't. Some people have said that it's not. It's not very canon and all this kind of stuff. I think it actually makes kind of more of an effort than than most of them do. I mean, most of them just kind of slavishly try and recreate stuff from the films badly.
Yeah.
But at least they pick an interesting figure from the kind of lore that you kind of interact with. And your guy, although he's kind of generic lank-haired McChin face, he does have kind of an interesting backstory that's told through loading screens. But it's amazing how economic it is with the beginning of that game. It's like there's this kind of stealth section where you kind of learn stealth by sneaking up and kissing your wife, and it's like. Here's your wife, kiss her, and then she gets killed, and then you're a ghost on your way. It's like, no, that's.
I believe that covers the video game basis.
Yeah.
Here's why you have magical powers. Here's why your wife is dead.
Yeah, your wife's got to die. Obviously, what's the point otherwise? What's the point of fiction if your wife doesn't die? Yeah,
We've all played Passage, so we know what happens. Choose the wife.
Yeah, but it's but all the orcs are really characterful and. Seemingly all Cockney as well. I don't know how this has happened to the people from East London. Why have they suddenly become the kind of
you will be the orcs
de facto voice of kind of moronic evil?
Yeah, it's something. I feel like there's a line of thought that goes that goblins and orcs have an impish sense of humour, or kind of, as you say, comically bad, and therefore must sound Cockney. Because obviously there's like Overlord and. So many fucking German RPGs where all the fucking orcs and stuff are.
Wouldn't it be weird if they're all like kind of deep south Texan?
I wonder if it's just that all the elves are so often like snooty Brits.
Yeah,
it's a class.
It is a class thing. Yeah, and actually, Chris was pointing this out to me. He said it was like with Nell and I, because you play two kind of snooty people slumming it among the working men. I don't know. It's interesting. They've done. This is probably, I don't know, this is reading too much into it, but I mean, there were lots of accusations about, Lord of the Rings in general being kind of, racially impolitic, and, the films as well. But this makes a very great effort to, have a spectrum of colours applied to the orcs. But it's odd. It's still kind of awkward. I mean, like, your character is still massively racist against orcs, which is, I don't know how fair that is. Like, I mean, actually, I kind of like a lot of the orcs you meet. They're having conversations by themselves. They seem quite sympathetic. They're just trying to get on in their hierarchy. And you brutally hurt them. And, I don't know. There's an interesting, race reading of that game to be done, I think.
I looked into this a little bit. And Tolkien never came out with a definitive origin for the orcs, which kind of muddies the water.
Well, Uruk-hai are created. Sauron creates them. Saruman has them birthed as horrible gloopy sacks in the earth.
True for sure, though.
Well, it really happened.
Is that real?
Because I think that's part of what I was reading, is that there's conflicting origins for them depending on whether you're reading the Silmarillion or whatever.
Oh, well, the orcs have a different. No, I think the orcs are a different race. I think the orcs are corrupted elves, and the Uruks are created.
Well, then doesn't it seem fair to hate the Uruks? Like, aren't they forged specifically for the purpose of evil?
They're basically robots.
They don't get any. You can't blame. Nature nurture. You can't blame the baby for being born.
Is it nurture when you birth them from bats?
Yeah, it is a Polygon article.
Yeah.
I think maybe it's a Verge article.
I would read that article. I like thinking about Tolkien's lore. Yeah. We've also been playing Alien or Alan Isolation.
Isolated Alan.
Which came out, yesterday, I think.
Yeah. Unexpectedly early. It seemed to be.
Yeah.
I don't know. It actually unlocked on Sunday, didn't it?
Did it?
Or it unlocked like a day before it was meant to unlock.
It was supposed to unlock Tuesday.
Yeah, I played it yesterday, I guess.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I think I unlocked at 4 p.m. yesterday and it wasn't meant to. Anyway, that's of no relevance to our listeners.
Is it racist against xenomorphs?
Certainly it's cast in a negative light, I would say. It's not treated fairly. I've had a weird experience with this game. So I've played it for 70 minutes. I know this because Stephen tells me. and it's a very slow open, as you might imagine.
Which is, I think, is great.
Yeah, I'm sort of broadly in favour of it. I have not encountered the alien, but I have died. And that didn't work out too well for me, because the game has this... So Chris has talked about the save system before, and it sounded really cool when he described it. And then when I played the game, it wasn't so cool, because you have to manually save, and I hadn't manually saved in a long time, and I died... it would be fair to say it was my fault. I was experimenting, as I do in most games, and I was told, like, someone was saying, "Oh, don't go over to that hazardous situation," and I thought, I don't actually agree with you that it could be hazardous. I think we should try and, do our best to make this work. And I went over to the hazardous situation, and the hazardous situation killed me. Quite slowly. I had a plenty of chance for it to not kill me, but after it had been, like, after I was under attack by the hazardous situation, again, trying not to spoil anything.
It's public knowledge that there are androids, if that's what you're talking about.
I let myself die, because I kind of fucked up, it was clear, okay, I've done the wrong thing, I should retry this bit. And then I just got set back fucking ages ago, like really long time, and the stuff in between had been long talks with story characters that I just had no desire to repeat, and so I just quit. And that meant that the 70 minutes of build-up to the presumed encounter with an alien at some point is now kind of wasted, because the next time I play, I'm not going to replay the 70 minutes. I'm going to replay annoying 10 to 15 minutes of stuff I've already done that I don't want to see again. And then I'm probably going to have another hour.
I thought they I don't know which part you're talking about, but I thought they were pretty good at sprinkling the save points fairly liberally through the areas, at least in the early game where there's danger.
I wasn't thinking about it, and I don't want to have to think about it, really, like save points. If if I'm want to experiment with something, I kind of want to be able to do that. Maybe that's, it almost certainly is intentional that they want you to value your life more than you do in other games. But just having to repeat a bunch of story stuff is the worst punishment.
That does suck, having to repeat cutscene and story stuff or whatever. But I do kind of, having played Styx, where it's got a checkpoint system, but it's not very good. They're quite spread out, but then you can just save at any point. And so I just save all the fucking time. I pass two guys in a room, save. Pass the next dude, save. And just to the point where I think I've saved 50 times in the first two missions, and then it's just no, you've not got any more space for saves now, so I'm just overwriting whatever my most recent save was now, because I'm still doing it, because otherwise getting sent back through these really difficult stealth situations that I've just overcome after 6 attempts it took me to do or whatever, it's just a complete fucking pain in the ass. So give me that option, and I'm going to use it and abuse it to the point where it sort of makes meaningless certain parts of the game, but I'm still doing it anyway. So I like that maybe isolation forces me to not ruin my own experience. Yeah,
it's actually really interesting, because that is the traditional way of doing it, certainly on PC, is you can save as much as you like, particularly in stealth games, because if you don't do that, then it gets super frustrating. And then Shadow of Mordor, has, I don't think, any kind of manual saving or any checkpoints, really. It's just when you die, you get resurrected, and that's part of the plot, and that's how you have ongoing relationships with people who've killed you. You just come back. And that, I really like that. But it is, lots of people have called the game frustrating, and I have had moments that I was really frustrated with it. I don't know if saving would have helped. I think probably not, because, it would have solved that problem, but created lots of new problems about, now you just reload every time something bad happens, so you never have any ongoing relationship with these people.
Some of the individual missions are overly long, I think, in Shadow of Mordor, and ask you to do too much.
Have you had to repeat a lot in missions when you failed?
Once or twice, but it was annoying when they had to do it. One of the mantling problems I encountered where I just wouldn't mantle correctly, wouldn't drop off a wall. Then when I did, I kind of dropped down in half-metre increments while completely in full view. I was like, just fall off the fucking wall! And he wouldn't do it, and so I got spotted and killed. And I was like, oh great, now I have to do a thing that took me about 15 minutes to do again, which is nice.
I did want to mention that, actually, that in general, the climbing stuff, it's a lot like Assassin's Creed, where you hold down a button, and while you're holding that, you'll both sprint and jump over stuff. I've actually found that better than Assassin's Creed. I fuck up much less regularly. If I'm I'm pushing in a direction, my guy goes in that direction generally, whereas Assassin's Creed just makes up where I want to go. He said, oh, you meant to swing on this signpost at 180 degrees and go in the other direction. And clinging onto stuff, you won't ever climb up a ledge unless you're holding the jump button. So when you're moving the stick around to kind of mantle all over a wall, you'll never accidentally pull yourself up and then expose yourself to a bunch of expose yourself to a bunch of orcs, as you might accidentally do. And yeah, if you want to go down, you just press B, like the Styx problem of wanting to get onto the ledge you're currently on. Just pressing B once does that, and you will hang on to it, and you won't let go unless you. I don't know if you tried this and it didn't work, Marsh, but if I hold down B, my guy doesn't grab onto anything, so he can drop off a surface, even if there are lots of places that he could hang on. But if you tap B, he'll grab onto the next one down, so you'd have to tap B a lot.
Yeah, I think that's how it's meant to happen. Yeah. There's an odd thing, like when you move near a lot of the kind of organic-y structures, like cliff faces and things like that, you slow down even if you're running orthogonally to them, which can be frustrating, because I think the game interprets that you want to kind of press yourself against something, like cover, but you don't necessarily want to do that all the time. So they kind of like have a weird fuzzy collision box which seems to grab you as you walk past.
That's weird.
Strange.
Because Styx, there's just a button, you just hold down the right trigger, and if you want to press your body against something, and then you can kind of sneak along the wall. I don't quite know why you would make that automated in a way like that.
Yeah. Alien, though.
Yeah, what's your experience with it?
I like it so far. Although most of the things that I like about it have been about the world and the way it's presented. The actual interaction with the alien is, I haven't got enough into that yet at the point I'm in the game to really say a lot about. In preview, I've kind of played it in preview, and I have some reservations about how prolonged my interest will be in that particular relationship you have with the alien, because there seems to be a lot of trial and error involved, and that seems to have been compounded by some of the less positive reviews that come out. They said there's a lot of trial and error later, and it's all fatal trial and error, and that means repeating large sections because you don't have very many checkpoints. And I can see myself being irritated by that. And also, even while I was playing in preview, I was beginning to lose my fear of the alien because I was spending so much time sitting in cupboards. And when you get sitting in cupboards, you just get impatient in the end, and then you just run for it. And then, because of the potluck of where the alien is, because it's an interesting dynamic system, sometimes you'll get through, sometimes you won't, and you can just kind of pelt it each time until you kind of brute force your way through. And that's not how it's meant to be played. I wonder if actually making the alien stupider and less likely to catch you would actually make him scarier. But prior to that, like it's got this wonderful slow build. I don't, I quite like. I think that the voice acting of your character is pretty good. Not all the dialogue as written is it's kind of up to the kind of naturalistic standard, the kind of candor that the first film had. And is it a spoiler to say you end up on an abandoned space station? Largely abandoned. Things have gone to shit anyway there. And it's just slightly disappointing to see a franchise of such credibility once resort to just putting graffiti on the walls everywhere.
There's so much graffiti.
I know,
it's crazy.
like, what were these people doing? They weren't, how many fucking spray cans do these guys have? It's like a major spray can.
It's multicolour as well. There's bright pink graffiti and like blue graffiti on top of that. And
Nobody is incentivized to spray that many tags on a wall in a situation of, life-ending peril.
So I did wonder, I haven't really got far enough to judge conclusively, but I had that thought, and then I also thought, well, so part of the story that is that this station was kind of a place where people worked, and then it was shut down, and they were told it was going to shut down a fair time before it actually did. So I wondered if some of that graffiti was just,
protest.
People being pissed off with losing their jobs.
Oh, yeah. No, there are credible reasons why you'd see some graffiti. I think it's just the abundance of it. I think, it's frustrating because it feels wrong to criticise the game for this, because I think it does such an amazing job of creating that world, in engine. Look, it looks astonishing.
Yeah,
it looks very, very, very kind of tactile and physical, and all the stuff that they've done about setting it within a kind of particular period of futurism, like the late 1970s idea of what the future looked like. That stuff is incredibly kind of credible and powerful.
Incredibly credible.
Incredibly credible.
So credible you can't credit him.
But it just occasionally just over eggs things a little bit. Like there are one too many kind of obvious overt references to the first Alien. Like some of the desks have those kind of dipping bird mechanical figures on them. And you're like, yeah, I know, but like not everybody in the universe would have one of those. They might have an equivalent sort of thing. Or when you're going through a duct and like there's wiring running along the duct. And it's constantly sparking. You're like, no duct would have live naked wiring running along like every corner of it. That doesn't make any sense.
I really fucking hate that in movie tie-ins where they constantly wink at the camera. It was one of the worst things in the Colonial Marines. And it was the whole basis for selling that game was, oh, you'll see the white milky smear where... What's his face?
Oh, really?
Yeah, got blown up, and now you'll see the corridor or Cortez, Vasquez rather.
There is a kind of bit of a tourism element, I think, to these kind of. I don't think that's entirely.
I don't want to go to the Universal Pictures theme park ride version of these places, though. I want to go to these places, and these, and not have the Bill Paxton animatronic turn up and go, hey!
You get from orbit. Only way to be sure. Yeah,
you might remember me from films such as...
Yeah, there's a tiny... again, it feels wrong to criticise it because I think it delivers that stuff about as well as it's ever been delivered in an Alien video game. But it's still, it's not as brave as it might have been had you or I been directing it rather than people who actually have power and money.
Yeah, had you and I been directing it under no external pressure.
Yeah, exactly.
No risk.
Yes. Not with the pressure of having to support other people's livelihoods on its success. But yeah, there's again, and the way the Alien is presented in cutscenes, I would say it just hits those kind of obvious horror tropes, like people being sucked into vents and stuff like that, and the setups are a bit just fucking obvious, but. I don't know why I'm sounding so down. Like I've absolutely bricked it through the entire part of the game I played because the atmosphere of it is just incredible, and the setting and I don't know.
A lot of the complaints that you made earlier were things that I always feel that frustrate me in horror games, that it becomes eventually about trial and error. Because like all Mikami's stuff is just that, and the frustration of save points as well, like Resident Evil with its fucking typewriter ribbons.
Oh yeah.
I can't remember how Resi 4 worked, but Evil Within has a kind of checkpoint system, but if you want to quit the game, then you've got to find specific save points in the world. And it's all just about you walk down this corridor and some trap that you can't possibly have seen coming happens to you. You've got 4 seconds to deal with it. If you don't work out how to deal with it in those 4 seconds, you're going to get an elaborate death animation and then get sent back and have to do it again. There's a kind of rhythm to that, which can be pleasing to kind of learn the intricacies of this dumb system and how to overcome it. But I still eventually just get tired of the tension of it, tired of the repetition of it. And it's kind of like I'd hoped that Isolation might dodge some of that because of the dynamic Alien stuff, that it wouldn't just become trial and error.
Well, it's not trial and error in that you're trying, one of 4 options each time. It's just that you can try the same option over and over again and get completely different results because the alien is a dynamic creature. And that's
trial and error without the learning.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And that is what makes it terrifying, but it's also what can, if you're unlucky, I think, or just stupid, make it, just reduce the amount of tension you have because you are replaying the same thing over and over again. But then, I think the times when it succeeds validate that system as well,
It comes up in Styx with you mentioned patience as well. Because it's true in a stealth game where you're going to die if you fuck up. Like if I just watch the guards for 20 seconds, then I'll work out their patterns and I'll get past them. I don't want to stand still for 20 seconds. I want to stand still for 4 seconds, then make a decision and try it. And I'll probably die. But I'll do that 5 times rather than just wait once. Don't know. Interesting psychology to these things.
Looks real nice.
Yeah, I'm excited to play more, even though I didn't have the best experience. It had a few just really strange things, like, I don't know if it's just I don't know a certain button, but I found a flare, and then I selected it in my inventory, and now it's on screen, and there's a big message on screen saying, press R to activate flare, and I can't put it away. I don't want to activate it because it's a rare resource. I don't want to use it up.
I
And so
know
it's
that at
constantly
some
on
point
screen,
when I'm
and so is the
panicked,
text.
yeah.
The text is really bright in a very dark, moody game. Just constantly saying, press R to activate, press R to activate.
Yeah,
No,
same here.
I just want to play the game. Get out of my face.
I know because I'm really susceptible to influence that at some point my guard's going to be down and I'm just going to read that and I'm going to do it. Even though it's been on my screen for ages and I know what it does, and I'm going to illuminate myself in front of the alien.
Alien's going to turn up.
Yeah.
I can see a light over there. How was that? Oh, hello.
Is that how he talks?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I also had so it's very System Shocky in the way that, or System Shock 2E, where people are always just on the periphery of your influence, and you see someone running past, and like, oh, things collapsing, people run to safety behind glass so you can't get to them, and then after you get around, there's no way to catch up with them or see them. And I had that, except like
It's isolation time.
I'd run up some stairs.
It's not communal fucking alien party.
I thought that was the title. I guess that was wrong. I ran up some stairs and a guy was like running away from a blast or something, and he just ran like straight past me, right in front of me, and then just ran up to the wall and just vanished. No, it was obviously like, I think I was meant to see that from about 20 feet back, and he was meant to be out of vision when he vanished. He was like just right there.
Yeah, I've had a few bugs where animation of characters has glitched out. There was one where people were fighting and they just stopped stone still, and unfortunately stopped stone still in a gantry I needed to get through. So I then had to find another group of people and provoke them into shooting me in order to go back. Yeah, but that's rare.
Yeah, I have a feeling I've gone through a few hours here and I will not be bothered by any of this stuff.
No, Alien fucking scarred me as a child, so this has been very effective at triggering those
Triggering those scars.
traumatic memories. Yeah.
Shall we do questions from questions?
Let's do them! But first, a plug for our new YouTube series, in which Tom Senior and I play Dark Souls 2. Plug over.
Succinct.
But please watch it.
We'll stick a link in the show notes.
Yeah, do it.
Or search youtube.com for Crater and Crowbar. http /
Why?
www.youtube.com.
Richard writes in to say, good evening, gents. In most games where conflict is a player choice, mainly RPGs I guess, it's easy to get into fights, but impossible to get out of them, which inevitably leads us to commit homicide. The real-life fights I've witnessed have mostly ended when one person has clearly stopped fighting back, neutrals have stepped in, or just diffused into a starey swear-a-thon. But in games, once they are angry, they stay angry until I run or they die, the choice being almost exclusively mine, and it can be a heavy load to bear. Surely there must be some games where the player retains the ability to find a peaceful resolution after the fists, arrows, or bullets have started flying. Why do you think we still have this crude one-way street portrayal of conflict in games? Great show. Love it to death. Richard.
I think it's because state change beyond living and dead is difficult in games. So if they're going to stay alive, they have to also remember what happened before. Like, they can't, if you attack them out of the blue, they can't then become your best friend. And so it's difficult to have them behave in a realistic manner. And in general, there's a sort of truism about, like, why are so many video games violent and why are so many involve killing, and it's partly because killing things removes them from the game and they don't have to be simulated anymore, so it makes things simpler, and it means you can then bring on more things, and it's actually like a good flow just mechanically to have things be eliminated from the simulation for the player not to have to worry about them anymore. So that's the practical reason. I agree with him that there should be more games where you can get out of fights.
I think the assumption from like designers is that players prefer the closure of killing a person. Yeah.
You know where you stand with a dead person, don't you?
I mean, I did say almost exactly this about Shadow of Mordor. Like, I killed those bunch of guys and they came back, and I was like, oh, for fuck's sake, that ruined the story. I had closure when I killed them.
But there's games that have attempted this, like the Prince of Persia remake, not Sands of Time, which was the good Prince of Persia remake, but the other reboot that had this beautiful watercolour art style, but it tried to do the thing of you fight a guy, you don't necessarily defeat them, and then you fight them later, much like Shadow of Mordor. But But all it meant was that you had to fight the same fucking guy 5 times or whatever. And it was never satisfying to defeat them because they wouldn't die, they would just run away.
You can, in Gunpoint TM, jump on a guard, and then instead of punching him in the face, you can just jump off him again. So you can, like, if they're just, you didn't want to kill anybody, but someone just walked in on you unexpectedly, you could just pounce on them, stop them shooting you, and then, like, leap up to the ceiling above them, and they never look up, so they just get up and go, whoa, and then go back to their patrol route.
Guards can't look up.
Are there games in which guards, people you fight surrender to you, and then you can recruit? I'm sure there are, aren't there? I don't know. Some of the Metal Gear games have that. Or
I don't think they
first?
surrender. I think you can. Yeah, you either knock them unconscious or I think maybe you can just sneak up on them and tie a balloon to their back.
In Rise of the Triads, people would surrender, and then if you turned your back on them, they'd shoot you. So basically, you still had to fucking kill them.
Yeah, that's just worse, isn't it? You shoot people while they're on their knees in that.
It taught you that you should never show mercy, even when someone is unarmed and surrendered. Like, still, you should kill them.
So, talking of which, actually going back to Shadow of Mordor, yeah, I'm kind of amazed at you're a fucking medieval Jack Bauer in that game. A medieval ghost Jack Bauer as well. Like, it's unfair to call the people who give you intel worms, because you're fucking ripping this stuff out of their minds with your psychic ghost powers. And then you stab them right through the face, and then decapitate them.
That's not even like a button or an option or anything. After you've interrogated them, your character automatically stabs them through the eye and cuts their head off.
Straight through the bridge of the nose. Bloff. That's the noise it makes. Bloff.
Alright, Polygon.
Right. Oh no, it's just, games. It's a game that couldn't be without killing your wife within the first 5 minutes, and then amazing kind of interrogation techniques. Anyway, sorry.
So I was actually concerned about stuff before it came out, because the first video, it was sort of like, oh, this game actually looks quite interesting, but also, Jesus Christ, the violence is horrific, and then you just sort of violate people's minds as a matter of course. But that's, as we said
orcs are terrified as well.
That the thing about going inside someone's mind, like, sort of forcibly changing them to your side, has not come up yet in as far as I played. So it remains to be seen how disturbing I actually find that in practice. The combat stuff of just like really violent finishes and stuff, a bit like Deus Ex Human Revolution. Once I'm doing it, I don't mind. It's like, well, that's okay, because they were going to kill me. And
there's a few combat finishes, combat moves that you learn later on that do keep on making me going, I don't know about that. JR writes, Dear Crate and Crowbar, so, Destiny has been out long enough that people feel comfortable writing op-eds describing it as the great allegory for late model capitalism/consumerism. These are excellently written comparisons and accurate, but I'm getting bored of reading them. I read them when World of Warcraft got popular, when the West discovered Korean MMOs, during the rise of microtransactable cosmetics, and many more during the rise and plateau of Facebook games. It is, on the face of it, a good topic for writing. Damning the games for not being about enjoyment, and making the writing about a much bigger topic than the games themselves. But to my mind, this misses the greater point that the game's core loop so closely models consumerism, because consumerism itself is the only endless reward loop that we seem to have found as a society, suckering people into an endlessly performing the same activity. With all this in mind, what tiresome op-ed are you tired of seeing? Or maybe writing? And what game has been most ruined for you by its desperate clawing attempt to appeal to your lizard hindbrain? Thanks for reading, and reading, and reading, and reading. Plus 10 XP achievement unlocked, everybody. Sincerely, JR.
There's so many op-eds that I'm tired of reading. I mean, the obvious one is our game's art. But there are a whole bunch of them that you get pitched a lot as editor, like, why isn't story better in games? They always type the email in exactly that voice.
Yeah, it's depressing to see how reactive the gaming industry is when there's anything kind of note happens in the industry. There's just a flood of the same stories being written. Like, Flappy Bird comes out, and suddenly there's just endless fluffing Flappy Bird editorials that I end up illustrating for people. Or even, like, the whole Gamergate horror that has been rolling on. Like, I suspect it's self-defeating as well to some extent, that people writing about this stuff, disparaging Gamergate probably do more to fuel Gamergate by giving it that kind of level of import in their lives, seemingly being offended.
But I gotta say my piece. I've got the final judgment of this. I've got it all figured out. Here's my opinion, and this is just gonna solve it. You wait.
I think partly this stuff is keep in mind the outlet that's publishing it, because the Destiny piece about capitalism that was going around these past few days was by Simon Parkin.
I hadn't actually read that.
And it's a piece that's been written a whole bunch. Parkin writes it very well. But he writes it for the New Yorker. And so while we might be sick of reading that piece, the New Yorker's website is going to have an audience of people who have never read that piece before. Because they don't read Eurogamer.
Yeah.
They're reading the New Yorker and they're a mainstream audience. And so actually, I have no problem with someone writing a piece that's been written, the themes have been explored before. If you're writing it for a new bunch of people who've never seen it before, and actually that's great. We should celebrate that, because a lot of the ideas that we've been kicking around down here for so long are floating up into mainstream media now, and you're starting to see them in The Guardian and New Statesman, and not off in the gaming ghetto parts of those sites either.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it depends on how many sites you consume. If you're a one-site reader, then it's going to be valuable for that site to duplicate articles almost bordering on plagiarism from other sites. But then, if you're fairly omnivorous, then it can quickly become slightly tedious to see the same sorts of articles appearing over again.
I think part of the problem is that we're such a homogenous bunch as game journalists, and views are diversifying as writers diversify.
Yeah,
I'd like to see more. Just to put maybe a positive spin on this, rather than talking about what I'm sick of. I'd like to see more, specific mechanical analysis of games. I really love when someone just picks out, I really love the way this system works. Like, I mean, the boss system in Shadow of Mordor, I'm sure there are articles about that, and as well there should be, but even stuff that isn't so central and isn't necessarily so celebrated, just picking out, one thing about, I love the way this weapon works, and here's why.
Yeah.
I wrote an article 2 weeks ago entirely about the bats in Spelunky.
Cool. Really?
It was an RPS supporter post. So if you subscribe to Rock Paper Shotgun for $20, then you'll get access to that.
Yeah, that's what I'm interested in. I mean, those are the kinds of stories that I was wanting to write, were about the kind of way things are made to achieve an effect, and digging into those systems and the way the industry, either at the granular level where this artistry manifests itself through technology. That's interesting to me, but also the systems that facilitate that in terms of the way that studios are organised to produce games. Those things interest me. Generally speaking, the kind of op-eds which are about just reacting to industry events with opinion, I would probably avoid on the whole, because they just don't particularly interest me. So I kind of avoid this circumstance.
I think we're bad in general in talking about mechanics and explaining why mechanics work and how they work and addressing that stuff. And we talked about it a little bit last week with Destiny, about how some of the writing around that hadn't really engaged with that stuff. People much prefer or find it easier to talk about story. Yeah. And so purely mechanical puzzle games don't get written about so much. And it's not because they're not interesting or popular a lot of the time. It's just because we're all fucking useless English literature students and we don't know how to talk about anything in terms of theme and juxtaposition and character and dialogue and story. But we're great. And actually I've had developers specifically say that they're more than once that they're surprised by how design focused Crate and Crowbar is.
Is that right?
Yeah, which is weird. But there we go. We're great. Everyone else sucks. That's our positive spin.
Rakish.hd, aka Sam, says, Dear Ludonarrative Dissonauts, I finished listening to your excellent last podcast, then immediately went on to enjoy the Arctic Monkeys' seminal first album, Whatever People Say I Am. That's what I'm not. That's it, I don't know why you're laughing. That is a good album.
It sounds like you're making this email up.
Have you not heard the Arctic Monkeys?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah, but it's just that transition.
Then I enjoyed a nice glass of dry sherry.
This is a really good email. Anyway, bear with it. All your talk of shared vocabularies with other forms of art got me thinking about how some works of art in other media are deeply tied to a certain place. In the case of the album in question, Northern and specifically Sheffield clubs. Do you think that the same holds true for some games? That to an extent they can't really be understood independently of the place where they were created? Or does their imagined geography mean that they can transcend any worldly influence? Which games are hamstrung by their lack of familiarity with the homes of their developers on the part of the audience? Yours, Rakish.hd, aka Sam.
I think that it's become less the case as time has gone on, that as the industry has become globalised, and it's certainly true here in the UK, most of our companies have been bought by American companies or Japanese companies and so forth, and a lot of what made them feel distinctly British has gone away. But if you go back to lots of early 90s or late 80s Amiga games, I think they are best understood through the prism of late 80s, early 90s British culture, specifically youth culture, specifically Viz and 2000 AD. And I think that's like 90% of the sense of humour in Grand Theft Auto, for example, I think is taken straight out of cheeky British comics and gory British sci-fi comics, like Judge Dredd.
It's interesting this question comes at the time that Alien Isolation comes out, which is a game made in Britain by Creative Assembly, specifically about a film which owes a lot to the British style of filmmaking with the kind of, I don't know, I can't remember where it's...
It was filmed in Britain, wasn't it? At
Pinewood, was it?
Yeah, I think it was Pinewood, wasn't it?
Shepperton Studios, I can't remember. But actually there's a really good piece by Nathan Dighton, who's a film buff, and also former games journalist, possibly still games journalist, not quite sure exactly what he is now. He's transcended from games journalist.
He does PlayStation Access at the Yogscast, and he's a film critic because he does a lot of film writing for SFX and Total Film and stuff like that.
There you go, that's his CV. Anyway, it's a really good piece about specifically about how Alien Isolation, and describing why it got different scores on either side of the Atlantic, and positing that perhaps it got more favourable scores in Britain because it represents a certain kind of British sense of space as it is manifested through art direction.
Having been made by Creative Assembly in Britain.
Yeah, and also mimicking the kind of the rigour of Ridley Scott and his particular kind of tactile physical films. I think there's probably some truth to that. I don't know. I think, as you say, it's become so much more globalised as an industry now that it's less likely that you're going to get even that many British people working in a British studio.
Well, Creative Assembly, I think, have a lot of British people. They are also owned by a Japanese company because they're owned by Sega.
Yeah, actually, it's probably more true that you'll find British people working in British studios in Britain because up until recently there weren't the tax breaks to really attract people from overseas. But if you go to somewhere like Montreal, or Vancouver, huge numbers of the people working in those studios are not from Canada, and obviously that means that they perhaps lose something of whatever skunkworksy kind of ground roots movement Canada kind of could influence those games with. But
I remember when I started noticing, it's funny how many Ubisoft games have a level set in Montreal and one set in Shanghai.
Yeah. Which is sort of cool, they're still doing that, because, I mean...
It's not like I know Shanghai well enough to be sick of it. I'm still very interested in Shanghai. That's a great source of kind of tourism. Like, I want people to tell me what's so good about the places they live, or so interesting, or present those places to me in a way which captures my interest. And people who are natives to that area are going to be naturally the people who do that. I think it's great that they focus on their own cities and recreate them in games. My friend Yukio Kallio, who's a composer mainly, lives in Finland, and it snows a lot there, and he loves the feeling of just coming out of his house and just there being a field of snow, basically. And so he made a game called Life on a Mountain, where you play a kind of like Yeti-type creature living in a cave, and you leave your cave and walk out into the snow, and it's basically just a bunch of sort of things you can do in a snowy environment. You can go fishing, and you can try and climb the mountain, and once you're at the top of the mountain you can sled down it, and you can bring fish back to your family and cook it for them, and you can play with your kids, and I think that's about it. But it's just a game about the pleasure of, walking through fresh snow and experiencing that.
That sounds great. I want to recommend a game that I've just remembered. It's called Lisa, And it's about a girl and her dog. And it's set in a forest, and it's kind of top down, and there's the soundscape is of birds and rustling trees. It's absolutely beautiful, stunning kind of 2D sort of pixel art, but everything is really moving in a kind of slightly physicsy way. I think it's made in Unity. And there are very simple environment puzzles to solve, and you can kind of alternate between controlling either. In fact, you control both at the same time. You control your dog with the mouse, and you control the main character with your keyboard. And your dog can bark, and that scares sheep. So the first puzzle that you have to do is round up a bunch of sheep to make a scarecrow happy by putting them into a pen. And then there's some other puzzle that I haven't solved yet to do with trees. But it's quite a small space. When it was made by one person, it's up on itch.io, we'll put a link in the show notes. Made by one person, it's free, and it's just absolutely beautiful to be inside, because it's just got this feeling of being inside a beautiful forest, and you can just stop somewhere and listening to a babbling brook and some birds and some trees, and there's some sheep roaming around and a rabbit and a plucking acoustic guitar.
Where's the developer from? Hull, you were going to say.
I don't know, completely unrelated to the question,
Oh, right.
but I was reminded of it by you describing finished snow.
I think this is probably the question is thing about things being hamstrung or kind of locked to a particular geography of the developer. That's true of not just where they live, but I think it's true in indie games particularly about just their personal experiences. Right? And indie games tend to be more personal because there seems to be a smaller team making them, and that has the more people you have in a project, the more it's diluted. I was thinking about Milo actually as being the unreleased game by Lionhead and Peter Molyneux, in which you kind of interact with an AI child.
Reflective of Peter Molyneux's
childhood, not his own strange predilections, of which I know nothing. But that's, I mean, the reason I played that, I'm probably one of the few people to have played that outside of the studio, actually.
Right.
And it's a very unusual game to come from a largish studio like Lionhead, because it was obviously just an extremely personal project by Peter, kind of just about boyhood and, losing, it's set with this child moves to the countryside with his family, and his parents are having lots of difficulty in their marriage, and he begins to imagine an imaginary friend, and you are that imaginary friend. That's the relationship you have with him, and you kind of just, you can essentially just play, like you throw skim stones in a pond and stuff like this, and, but clearly that's something that, Mr. Molyneux wanted to express about perhaps his own childhood or just, the experience of growing up as a boy in general. And, that was, I think if you didn't know the kind of personal place that was coming from, I think it probably wouldn't have the same meaning or impact. And lo and behold, it was never released, probably for that reason,
It's a real shame that Lionhead are owned by Microsoft, because they've started writing online about various other prototypes that they've made and cancelled. There was one just last week about characters inside. It was a game that takes place on the pages of a book, and all the characters look really inky, and it's got a beautiful art style and sounded really cool. It's just a prototype that they decided to take forward, but if they were an independent company, I'm sure they could just release that and go, we did this cool thing. Wouldn't that be exciting?
Shame when people get bought by Microsoft.
So, Claude103 says, there's a voice and diction that bugged me when issuing from most of the pirates one slaughters in Far Cry 3. And it looks like an important character in Far Cry 4, will have them as well. And this is a post on our forum, which then embeds a YouTube video of what appears to be one of Far Cry 4's merchants doing a ludicrously exaggerated, but not actually ethnically placeable accent. And then he follows that up with a link to a YouTube video of Mitchell and Webb sketch in which they play a historical reenactment society, which together eventually decide that there's no way to historically reenact a battle between the Democratic Republic of Congo's government forces and Sudanese tribal interests without appearing to be a little bit racist. Anyway, so the Claude 103 goes on to write, am I imagining things? Couldn't 4 find another way of engaging in a biting ironic commentary about colonialism, subaltern tropes in Western culture, or whatever it was that 3 did that definitely wasn't racist? Really wish they'd just go back to the good old boys of 1, or the Afrikaners of 2. That's his question.
4, they are making efforts to deal with some of that colonialist feeling because you're not the prodigal white man. You are actually from this place that you're going back, but you've been raised in America, I think, and are now returning. And so these are your people that you're returning to. But I'm not sure how much of the shitty depiction of generic foreigners, you know, the unknowable other whose throats you're about to slit in the thousands, that actually does, just because the player character himself is, I'm from here.
Yeah.
And the villain isn't, he's an outsider, actually.
He's Chinese, I believe.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't know. It looks like it's coming together to be a ripe old mess. I mean, the thing is, it's obviously reacting to the criticism, but I don't know that they've. Well, we won't know until it's out really about whether they've. It's setting off all kinds of warning bells.
It's really tricky because I don't know how you get around it. Because I can understand the impulse, and I want them to set these games in exotic locales, and I don't want them to whitewash those locales and just have a bunch of good old boys, Americans there from no discernible.
Yeah. You know what game?
That would be problematic in itself.
You know what I really like is, I mean, my preferred way of doing it is have them speak in their own language, and then it's, you know, makes sense. Like, they wouldn't try and speak English in an accent of their own language. They would just speak their own fucking language. And B, then for at least for like people who don't speak that language, doesn't really matter how good or bad the actors are because you can't tell if you can't hear what they're saying.
Two birds, one stone.
I can't judge acting quality in a totally different language. I can't tell if they're saying it weirdly because I just don't know what it sounds like normally. The only problem is if you're using the AI barks to communicate important AI things, like you know, I'm throwing a grenade now.
Yeah.
But you can just have subtitles for that, and I actually think that's a really good solution because then you can read it on screen and it's totally clear what they're saying and it's not, you know, cheap and exploitative. And so, do you remember Crysis did this for the Korean soldiers?
Oh, yeah.
And it was dependent on difficulty mode.
Yeah, that was
if you played on the
great,
hardest
actually.
difficulty, they spoke in Korean, and if you didn't, they spoke in English with a Korean accent. Yeah. And having them speak in Korean was way better.
Yeah, and the English and the Korean accent was kind of iffy.
Yeah.
Stalker is sort of the answer to both the questions we've just been asked in terms of games that can only really be understood through the locale in which they were made. And I don't know if they changed it with the later games, but in the original at least, all of the Stalkers spoke in Russian. You didn't understand anything.
The laters are in English.
Is it? There's not even an option for Russian.
Oh, I
can't
don't
remember.
know.
There's maybe a menu setting, but that was great because like you wanted to feel isolated and confused in the zone of Chernobyl, and so making everyone speak in a language you didn't understand was brilliant. Like it carried through the atmosphere and the effect of the game was going for.
Yeah, I like going to exotic places in games, but I do worry that there's a you know, that doesn't give you a let out even if you depict those places authentically. It becomes a kind of like, you know, violence tourism. Like, let's go to another nice place to blow it up with.
Yeah, but people who live in those places sometimes like that, which is why all like American films now are going to China, whether it's Skyfall or Edge of Tomorrow or Mission Impossible 3 or any of these films.
Avengers got money from the British government for having part of it set in Greenwich.
Really? I didn't know that. But you know,
and they blew it up. They blew it the fuck up.
I wonder if they go to Berlin in that film as well, and probably the same thing. It's because
they're looking for
people in these countries like to see themselves reflected as well. You know, if you're a huge part of the audience for American blockbusters now is China, so you better set some of it in China. So I don't know. maybe people in Tibet will really like that Far Cry 4 is about.
It is a fictional
I don't
country. Like, it's a fictional nation in that area, right?
Yeah, it's in a way
Yes.
Bhutan kind of is, but taken over by crazy people.
I think the saddest thing is, like, you often don't know whether it's fictional or not. Like, around for years, I believe Kundu from the Western Israel place,
Yeah.
and I found out it was fictional.
Jeremiah writes, "Hello, cassowaries and crocodiles. There's a game I love called Cortex Command. It's a side-scrolling tactical shooter with some neat squad mechanics and base building. The terrain and models are completely deformable, meaning firefights are intense and brutal, and involve ever-changing tactics as the landscape becomes littered with craters and debris from downed ships. To wrap this up, there's a world map where you allocate resources and money to expand bases and mining operations and schedule attacks from rival corporations. It also has a neat physics-based movement system, which means that the characters will get stuck in landscape and occasionally spontaneously explode. I love this game to death, but never felt comfortable recommending somebody else buy it. Aside from bugs related to the physics system, the AI is shoddy and takes many, many hours to get to grips with the unintuitive interface and controls. My question is this: which game do you adore but would never recommend to somebody else, and why? Whether it simply be buggy, unintuitive, thematically troubling, or maybe just a little bit shit. Best wishes from Convict Land, Jeremiah." Oh, he says, "P.S. Make sure to give the message a healthy shake to loosen off any stray spiders."
Okay.
Convict Land?
I assume that's a reference to Australia,
And there's also the spiders thing.
where many of my predecessors in my family have been shipped. So,
Good to know. I always hesitate a bit to recommend Mirror's Edge, because I love it, but I'm fully aware of all the things wrong with it, and I don't really make excuses for them. I just think that the good things about it outweigh them.
desert golfing to strike away the PC games.
How many holes in are you, Marty?
Oh, 1,700-ish, I
Oh,
think.
you're an amateur.
Do we think,
I know.
so without saying what it was, do we think the screenshot we saw of what might be the end of the game is real?
I'm never going to find out, hopefully. If I do, please kill me.
I don't even know if we should link this in the show notes. I guess we should link it and give it a spoiler
Is this,
warning.
yeah,
We shouldn't link the game in the show notes. Nobody should play this, please.
I'm in the 2300s now.
It's
Have
an
you ever
iPhone
mentioned
game.
it before?
No.
So it's a very, very simple mobile game, iPhone or Android, where you just like drag with your finger to hit a ball towards a hole, and when you get it in the hole, it just scrolls right a bit, and there's a new hole, and it just goes on forever, seemingly. And there's no structure, there's no kind of menu, you can't restart the game. The only way to restart the game is literally delete it off your phone and then download it again. And when you quit and start the game again, you're just exactly where you were before. And it's utterly barren, it's utterly orange, and it goes on for at least thousands and thousands of holes, and I think it's like, is it over 1,000 before anything changes at all?
I think it's a hole 500
Oh,
you
yeah.
might see a cactus.
So
Yeah.
many holes in. It will start. Like a subtle change will be introduced, and then you think, oh, it's going to change now. But then no, just that goes away, and it's just barren for another like 500 levels.
And yet somehow I've played it every day for probably about,
Yeah.
I don't know,
It's-
an hour.
It's just like, at a basic level, it's just quite a fun, nice little game, quite satisfying to play, and because there's no failure state, you can never screw up, you can never be told you did it wrong, you never be kicked out of the game or anything. It's easy to play forever because you're just like, well,
There's
I
no
screwed that up,
resting
I'll just keep
stage,
going
yeah.
until I get that hole.
You see the number of shots you've taken versus the number hole you won, so you can work out what your average is to get in the hole. And there is one level which unlocks a leaderboard, so you could...
Only on iOS, though.
Only
Because
on
on
that level.
Android, you don't have Game Center or whatever it is to automatically show you your friend scores. There's two ways I've started describing it. One is that it's Gus Van Sant's Peggle. And the other is it's like trying to throw a stone in a bin on the other side of a car park. Like, it's more like that than it is golf. It's not really a game. And golf has holes and bunkers and scores and par and bogeys and all of these different rules. This is literally just trying to throw a thing in a hole. But there's lots of other iPhone games that do almost exactly this, and some of them are more involved with bonuses
Bet
and
they are
power-ups
good,
and
though.
stuff like that. But some of them are pretty damn similar in terms of how basic they are. And I can't understand why Desert Golfing is taken off, and whether it's just because it's made by the EnviroBear 2000 guy. He had a bit of a following.
There's just kind of like a really perverse aesthetic to it. Like, it's just so
Did Gus
aggressively...
Van Sant do Jerry?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is just walking
That
through a
makes sense.
desert for a long
Jerry, yeah.
time.
Two people both called Jerry walking in the desert, in which almost all of the dialogue is just the word Jerry next to each other.
Yeah.
And also they have their own colloquial slang in which Jerry is a verb that they can use to mean fucked up or in some way. And of course all they've done is fuck up things. So all they ever say is, "Oh, you just Jerry'd the rendezvous. I can't believe you did that, Jerry."
Somebody also, I forget who, described it on Twitter as the Dark Souls of Angry Birds.
I think it was Adam Saltzman, the guy who did Cannibal.
Oh, yeah.
That's very
That's quite apt.
That's good.
Anyway, not a PC game, but life-destroying aliens and shit at the same time.
I think it's because it's mysterious. Like, people couldn't agree on whether it was randomised for each person individually or whether it was hand-built. And then I think we've concluded it's not hand-built, but then is it the same for everybody or is it slightly different for everybody? And if you restart, do you get exactly the same levels? Because there are definitely certain ones that are always the same, but it seems like some of the others might differ in some ways.
Oh.
And then there are just certain, like, you know, mysterious, like when you said the cactus, so I'll say a cactus shows up and then it disappears again, and you just don't know what it means. What does it mean? Why was it there? And then there's weirder stuff as it goes along. But everything's so mysterious. Everything's just like that showed up and then it just went forever, and we never found out what it was.
It changes colour.
Yes.
And it changed colour, I think, around hole 2000 for the first time.
That's the
and
only
I
reason
just
I'm
suddenly
playing it.
realised one day, after I think a whole bunch of holes in this colour, of like, I swear this is a different colour than it used to be. You know?
What, isn't it? So is it constantly different colour or is it just one different colour?
Just one different
Because I
colour.
saw a screenshot and it was like bright purple.
It
Yeah.
slowly fades into that, though, and then...
Yeah,
Oh, really?
it does it in a way you don't notice. And then it changes again. And when it changed again, I was like, oh, it's changed again! It's definitely changing colour!
There's a level in which, since we spoiled the cactus, there's a level where there's a rock, and it's just slightly reactive to your...
It's got collision
impact.
detection
It's got
on
collision
it.
detection. You can roll it. And I hit it a few times and thought, I wonder if something happens if I roll this all the way and put it in the hole. And I realised that way madness lies, so I didn't do it. But beautifully, on Twitter the next day, somebody's taken a screenshot of the rock in the hole and said, nothing happened. But I felt kind of good about myself.
I have a friend who's just trying to take the rock with him on the next course.
Oh, God.
Just forever.
There's actually in the one of the first opening moments of Alien Isolation, you're walking around. You just got a
Alien
hide
Isolation,
sleep.
the desert golfing of horror games.
And like objects on the floor are physics and interactable, and there's like you can walk around, look down, and you see your bare feet kind of kicking flip flops around. I was thinking somebody's trying and kick that flip flop the entire way through the game. You can't, but
And then you throw it through a basketball hoop at the end and get a
Yeah.
message from the monkeys.
That's it for questions. No more questions here.
Goodbye, questions.
Bye. Go and watch our
I miss
YouTube
you.
series. Don't write us any more questions. Forget about questions.
Shut up and watch our YouTube videos.
Yeah.
Shout your questions at our YouTube videos at http.
You can send us questions at crateandcrowbar.com, and you can post them on our forums at crateandcrowbar.com/forum, and you can tweet at us at crateandcrowbar, or you can tweet at us individually, probably not with questions for the podcast because we will ignore them. I'm at Pentadact, Pentadact.
I'm at Marsh Davis. It's Dabies.
I am at Gonnas, Gonnas.
And thank you for listening, everybody.